Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the New Beginnings 2021. Before I dive into the topic for this week, I want to share a very interesting incident that happened in my life recently and that left me with profound realizations that inspired me to make this video. So, this was about 3 to 4 months ago. I had enrolled for a storytelling workshop by one of the world's best orators and motivational speakers. Let us call her Seema. Her name is not Seema, but I want to give her a fictitious name just for ease of reference. So, I had been listening to Seema's talks on YouTube and I had followed her story, and I was very inspired by her whole journey of how she became a motivational speaker. And so I decided to enroll for a workshop that she was offering on storytelling. And I decided to learn the art of storytelling because that's one skill I always think that I need to get better at. So I was very excited to attend this workshop. One technique that she shared was show your story and not tell, which means that don't just give information, but in fact relive those emotions of your story so that your audience can also experience those emotions. Make your audience cry, make them laugh, give them an experience of your story rather than just narrate it to them. So it's almost like they are watching a movie as they hear you share your story. And she gave us a few techniques on how to do that best on stage, which I made note of. The other thing she said was for your story to be effective, your story needs to have a pain element in it. It needs to have an element of conflict. Because she said, if you just say the king died and the queen died, that does not have a story. But if you say the king died and the queen died of grief, then you have a story. So your story needs to have an element of conflict, pain, because that is what people connect with the most, and that is what really touches them and keeps them engaged. And so that made a lot of sense, and I made notes and I decided to make my next video and share one of the most painful experiences that I had gone through in childhood and what were the learnings and realizations that I had from that experience. So the next morning, we got to making our new video, and I decided to use some of the techniques that I had learned in the class in that video while I narrated my story. So I decided to emote and relive those emotions again. So we did it once, and I was not happy with what came out. So we did it again and again and again, and I think we must have done at least 10 retakes of that video. And finally, when I looked at the final product, I must say it was a crappy product. And of course, I didn't share that video because I really felt it was not worth sharing. And when I actually looked at that video, I thought the message was just not there. It almost felt like I was some kind of a joker acting and using all of these emotions. And it felt very artificial even to me, even though my story was completely authentic. But that left me feeling very disheartened because I thought I'm a bad storyteller. I thought, okay, I decided to give it up because I was not happy with the product. And that night, when I was contemplating, I was asking myself, why is it that despite applying techniques taught to me by a world-class trainer and orator, I was still not able to make impact through my story? And that's when I had a very profound realization. It was so deep that it has inspired me to create this video, especially to share this with you. I realized that the reason why the video did not create impact was because I was trying to share an authentic story of my life by being inauthentic. So in other words, Ranjana's story was not shared by Ranjana, but Ranjana was trying to be Seema and share Ranjana's story. And that is why it was not making an impact. Expressing emotions openly, crying or feeling angry or frustrated or expressing any kind of emotion openly and publicly is just not my personality. It's not good or bad, but that's just not who I am. And I realized that because I was trying to be like somebody else and share a story of my own life, the message was not coming out clearly. It just failed to create its impact. I realized that I was caught in this trap of authenticity, and that's the trap that I want to talk about today. The trap of authenticity. It is very easy for us to get caught in this idea of authenticity, especially in an era where failure stories get more applauded than success stories. We have seen so many of these failure stories, celebrities talking about their problems, their failures, their insecurities openly on social media and people applauding them. Now, my observation and perspective on this is yes, while it is true that people applaud failure stories, people applaud failure stories shared by successful people, which means that when somebody is a success and he talks about his journey of how he failed again and again and again, what we are interested in is how he solved his problem. What was his mantra for success? So the reason the failure story gets applauded is not because of the pain and the suffering and the sorrow, but it's because of the person's ability to solve their own problems. It is that strength, that courage that inspires us as an audience. And so I realized that in my case, being authentic would mean being who I am naturally and then sharing that story and the realizations, and that would create a much greater impact. Because as a person, I never express my emotions openly. That's just my personality. People who know me closely would have very rarely seen me cry in public. The only person who knows what's going on inside of me is my husband. But other than that, I do not share my problems with anybody because I've always been raised to be very, very independent. And I believe that I need to solve my own problems and not just share and crib about them. The only time when I actually openly speak about my problems or my sufferings or my sorrow, and it's not that I don't experience these emotions, I experience all of these emotions. But the only time I speak about them is when I'm sincerely seeking advice from somebody or when I feel that sharing that story will add value to somebody else's life. But otherwise, my usual natural tendency is to rise above those emotions because I know that while I'm experiencing all of these emotions, it's a temporary phase. It's not who I am. Who I am, my true authentic self, is much more powerful, much more stronger, much more bigger than my petty little problems. And for me, being authentic is to access that real self and bring that best self forward. And that's how I've always been. So the lesson that I learned was irrespective of whatever your role is, whether you're cooking dinner for your family, or whether you're addressing a class of students, or whether you're treating your patients, or whether you're motivating people on stage, or whether you're performing music or dance on stage, whatever your role is, it is when you access your highest self, your true authentic self, which is much more bigger, more powerful than your problems and your emotional phases, which is very temporary. When you bring that self and combine it with your greatest strength or skill and a very high, pure intention, that's when you're able to create work that can inspire others. And that work created in that consciousness becomes a masterpiece. It's like if you've paid and brought tickets to a live performance by your favorite musician and you go there to listen him perform live. And if that guy walks on stage and tells all of the audience that, I'm going through a personal loss situation and so I'm too emotional and I cannot perform today, so I'm very sorry. How will you feel? Is that what you expect from him? Maybe if you're an ardent fan and if you really love that person a lot, you might understand it for one time. But if he does that the second time and the third time, and if he begins to do that every other time under the pretext of being authentic, you will shoo him off because that's not what is expected out of an artist. The artist, that musician, is expected to show up, which means irrespective of whatever personal situation that he is going through, he is expected to bring his best self, his highest self up on stage and still perform no matter what. And he is expected to show up every single time because you have shown up by making the effort and the time and the money to be there for his show. Similarly, my dear friends, in life, whether it's in relationships or at work, barring very few exceptions, most of the times, I would say like more than 95% of the times, you are expected to show up. Showing up means that you bring your best self to life and your best self to work. And so, as we step into 2021, let us become avatars of authenticity and let us step into this new year with a bang. Being avatars of authenticity means, irrespective of whatever role you're playing, whenever you go to work, ensure that you access your highest self, your best self, the part of you that is so much more powerful than your petty circumstances and situations and emotional phases. Access that higher self, combine it with your greatest strength, and have a very high intention that the work that I'm producing is meant to serve others. And with that intention, produce your work, create your work, become a creator, and you will automatically produce a work of art which will become your masterpiece. Of course, if you're doing the same thing every day, like you're cooking dinner every day, you're addressing a class of students every day, for a motivational speaker, that speaker has to produce content every day and motivate people every day. For a coder, he has to write a piece of code every single day. I completely acknowledge the fact that the quality of your work may not be your very best every single day. It's not possible to produce the best stuff every day. But if your intention is very pure, if your intention is at a very high level, then even if the quality of what you do is not the same every day, that's still fine because you have shown up. And my dear friends, in the new era, showing up by being avatars of authenticity is the only way that you can thrive in a VUCA environment. You do not know what the situation is going to be like in the next year. And as we have seen, situations can keep changing. Today it's the pandemic. Tomorrow it could be political tension. Day after tomorrow it could be something else. But irrespective of whatever your situation is, the way for you to thrive, excel, be successful and inspire others is by becoming avatars of authenticity. And when you truly become authentic and live that, you will be able to set yourself free from this trap of inauthentic authenticity. So this week, I urge you to look at your own life, look at your relationships, look at your work situations, and identify situations and times when you don't show up under the pretext of being authentic. Identify the days when you say, I don't feel like working today because I'm not in the best frame of mind. I don't feel like talking to that person today because I'm emotionally very disturbed. So identify these situations, become aware of them, and see how you can use the power of your authentic self to show up and be the best version of yourself in all of these situations. Think about this and let me know what your experience and your thoughts is in the comments section. I would be very interested and eager to know what your thoughts and experiences are. So all the best and see you again next week.